Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Box Score Sports YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by Clint, and we're going to continue to do our NBA exit interviews, and we are going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. So before we get into it, let us know in the comments section down below what you think the Cavs should do this off season. What do you think their season grades was this past season, and what's your long shot hope for the Cavs? But Clint, let's start with the season that was. The Cavaliers finished 64-18. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference during the regular season, but they had a second round exit to the Pacers. So give me your grade for the Cavs season.
I went with an A minus. Probably would have been a straight A, but when you win 64 games and you lose in the second round, it's tough to take. And I know Garland had some injuries. Mitchell looked banged up. So you got all of that going in. But on the whole, we expected some improvement from the Cavaliers, but to get to 64 wins in a dominant fashion for most of the year, it's got to be a grade in the A range for me.
Yeah, I think I had as well an A minus, but that's because I at the beginning of the season, unlike you, didn't think they were going to be contenders. My biggest worry for them, and it kind you're right. Garland got injured in the playoffs, and that kind of killed their vibe a little bit. The Pacers proved to be a better team as the season went on. But my big thing was the guard play, like their defense on that side of the ball with those two guards. I just didn't see it. But they became a contender. Atkinson, the addition of him, I think helped the team offensively do different things. Mobley became sort of a three-point shooter, even though he doesn't shoot a lot of them. He shot 37% from three, but he only takes three a game. So you kind of hope as next year maybe that will go up to 5 to 6. To add floor spacing. But yeah, overall, it was a great season for them. And I think part of the reason why they won the 64 games during the season, the health for this team was better than it was the previous year as well.
Yeah, and Atkinson did a good job of figuring out the Garland, Mitchell, your turn, my turn. Doesn't seem to be a lot the years prior, a lot past that. And when you get to the playoffs, unfortunately, this time it was injury-wise, but you can run into stagnation. And as you talked about, having two small guards makes it tough anyhow. But I really liked how they did that. Their bench in the regular season looked good. It came through. They got contributions. And that alone, when you see what Ty Jerome did, at least minus the Pacers series, and even guys like Dean Wade showing up, it just goes to show like sometimes a change in coaching and philosophy can, push you to that next level.
Yeah, no, I agree. Any like other than just them flaming out in the second round, was there any other negatives of this season for the Cavs?
I just think you still see the limitations of the two guard, too big.
Yeah.
You lack a little versatility, and the guys they had, getting DeAndre Hunter helped, but he's on the lower end of that 3-and-D guy that you want, and you kind of see some of his limitations. Same with Ty Jerome when he got on that big moment. The Pacers seemed to figure out what he couldn't do,
Right,
and what he wanted to do. Same with Dean Wade. So sometimes you get to the playoffs and the pressure of it and the focus that teams put on it kind of brings that out. And I think the Cavs have that with the Mobley, Allen, and Mitchell, those combos of the guards and the
right.
forward centers. You just a team, you're going to run into a matchup where a team can exploit that.
Right. It's almost like too much parity on their team for their key players. Like Garland needs the ball, Mitchell needs the ball. They're both small guards. And then you got the two bigs, which you think Mobley will probably be a better center than he is a power forward. Allen has to be a center, but the floor spacing in in moments like the playoffs where teams can focus in, they can take advantage of those things. I totally agree with that. The Hunter trade, I think overall it worked out, but what I would say is they traded him probably to beat the Celtics, and they ended up not having to play the Celtics, and he didn't really do a whole lot to like you would hope he could cover Halliburton, but he's not quick enough defender to cover Halliburton. So I thought even though it's a net positive for Hunter, that would be the only like negative. The con for Hunter is like he was brought in to do a specific thing that your team didn't have to do, and he was unable to adjust to what they needed him to do in covering someone like Halliburton.
Yeah, for sure. He's totally a Celtics type player to play against the
Right.
forwards, and even the Celtics guards aren't overly quick with
Right.
Holiday and White. They're just more solid, sturdy guards. So when you get against the Pacers, who are a run and gun quick team, it kind of takes a little bit of his strengths away.
Correct. Okay, let's look at the off season. What do you think are some of the priorities? What would you like to see for the Cavs off season?
Well, they have a bit of a challenge, with the aprons and that. Um, they got to keep their depth and maybe, well, you got to hope for health first of all.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think you have to decide if you're going to keep the two guards or the two bigs. Um, I would lean towards keeping the two guards and trying to
Hmm.
figure out, the bigs, making Mobley a center, and pushing him in that direction with the shooting and trying to get another wing. But they can't you can't take a step back because the East is, as we've talked about through all these videos, the East is wide open. Even if you run it back, you probably still have a really good chance to get to the finals with this team. So it's not an emergency. We gotta fix everything. But I think like Ty Jerome's going to get priced out of their range. I think they need to enforce that bench if they're going to run it back like they have and bring in hopefully guys with a little more versatility. And you can probably do that with minimums with when you have a chance to play and be on a good team.
Yeah, and if they ended up trading one or both of the big men, one of those two, and then one of the two guards, you can add depth that way too, which could help. If you had to choose between, because I think we're both in line as far as like we maybe if you trade one of the bigs, that would be Allen, obviously. Which guard, if like you're like, hey, the guard thing isn't working, what guard would you trade? Would you trade Mitchell or would you rather trade Garland? Putting you on the spot.
Probably, yeah. I would lean towards trading Garland. It's going to be harder. He had the toe surgery,
Yeah,
so it sounds like
sure.
he might miss the start of the year of training camp. But I would lean that way. I think you can get more. There's a little more intrigue there. Donovan Mitchell, older, has a bigger contract. But I think if you moved Garland, there would be a lot more teams that would jump at that fact, feeling that they could keep him, extend him, and have a longer runway with him.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, long shot for the Cavs.
Would just be moving Allen for something more versatile. I don't know if he was in Brooklyn. I don't know if you could get a Cam Johnson and something else. Um, Even if I wouldn't do it for like a Michael Porter.
Right, sure,
But,
sure.
if the Nuggets wanted someone next to Jokic, which probably wouldn't happen. Um, it's just a hard because Allen is a really good center, but he's a hard person to fit with other teams because he doesn't shoot. So theoretically, like he wouldn't play with the Bucks. Could he go to the Spurs? Would the Spurs be the team that would play him and put Wemby out there? Another like intriguing one. Um, but I think the move is to move on from Allen while he still has a relatively good contract, age, and I think there's enough teams that could talk themselves into putting him next to a guy that can shoot a little.
Yeah, no, that's those are some good options for Allen. I just said I put down long shot again. So if you haven't heard these exit interviews, they're kind of like, hey, what could happen? Like 2%, 5% chance. Um, Allen for Herb Jones. You get throw some picks in there. I think they got a couple tradable, three, I think three tradable picks. Uh, that to me would be perfect. Will Lou Dort be available if I, for the off season? I would, if I were the Cavs, that would be like, how can like a trade for him? And then the other one I just picked one for both. So I said Allen, Hurd, Jones, Garland. If the Rockets get desperate, how would you feel about Garland being on the Rockets?
Yeah, and when we talked about the Rockets last night, that's a good kind of secondary player. If they kind of strike out on some of this, is Garland's another guy that would smaller but younger, and I think he'd be a much better closer distributor than Fred VanVleet. So I think that'd be a great move for Houston.
Yeah, so I just put down that to make the money work, it would probably have to be something like Dylan Brooks, Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, and there was like a Williams guy just to get the money to work. So you would still have some depth, you'd get some defense, and you would be able to kind of set the team up around Mitchell and Mobley, and that's what your team would be like. Yeah. So that's all I got.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Nothing else on the Cavs?
No.
Okay, well, that's all we got on the Cavs for their exit interview. Again, let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the Cavs offseason, their previous season, and what's your long shot for the Cavs. Like the video, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys real soon. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.